the difference between your intelligence and AI intelligence is that it's not coming up with the idea.
That's true. Yep.
And I don't see the AI being an intentional force because they have no dreams, they have no meaning. They just take what already exists and reconfigure it. They take Joe Rogan's voice and Steve Jobs' voice, and they've got words that each of them has said, and they put it together and they put it into a conversation. Hi, everybody. This is Dan Sullivan, and this is Capability Amplifier with Mike Koenigs. And this was a wild one, Mike, because we started off with AI and how scary AI is, and we ended up with Mike Koenigs Amplified. So this is a very, very exciting adventure for me. And and I was able to step back from the model that you created, and I think this is everybody's going to find this fascinating.
It's well, first of all, thank you. And what we began with, like you said, is the AI and the evolution of human labor, and then being able to spend all of your time in your amplified state, or as you said, you amplified. In fact, I registered that domain while we're on here and decided that's the name of my next book. So this was one of the most inspirational episodes I've done with you in a long time. Really got my wheels turning. We've got great links in the show notes. And this, by the way, is the first chunk. So we'll call this episode 1. So we can't wait to see you both in this one and in the next episode that follows up. All right. Well, here's the big idea, Dan. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It's called All In. Bunch of Silicon Valley, big investors, one of the original co-founders of PayPal, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the guys was talking, and he said, if you think about the evolution of man, from primitive times, we started out as hunters, and then as communities started growing, we'd become workers, farmers initially, but then whatever else that translates into. And then we start turning towards knowledge. And that means we're going to be creators. And if we've got laborers on one hand, we've got creators on the other, maybe that would be an architect, someone who would design something, but creating huge leverage, the 10x leverage, But the next evolution is becoming a narrator. So, and we talked in one of our past episodes about AI, for example, and what's happening. So there's this technology that allows you to speak and say, here's what I want, and the AI will write for you. I just listened yesterday. There was a podcast completely created by an AI, and it's a conversation between Joe Rogan and Steve Jobs. It's a conversation, and for the most part, it sounds fairly believable, and they're just chatting, and it's going back and forth. And then there's now Facebook, Meta, came out with a text, tell it what you want, and it'll make videos for you. So AI-created movies aren't too far away. Last week, as of now anyway, Elon came out and they talked about the new robot. And the goal is to create this $20,000 robot, and initially wants to put it in his own factories. It'll be made out of, and they're leveraging all of the data acquired from self-driving cars. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, if you imagine right now, if you had a $20,000 robot, and our goal is to get 10x or 100x value out of that. And this is something that will incorporate, because a lot of the robot will exist in the cloud. It's going to leverage all of the predictive movement, know how humans move and objects move, so it can avoid them. It'll learn quickly in a home environment. And again, it's going to share that wisdom and that knowledge and those capabilities in the cloud. You'll maybe pay for upgrades. So right away, it'll do all of your menial tasks in your house. Not right away. It's going to take a little while to get there. It'll be between 1 year and 20 years from now, but let's just say it won't take that long. Mm-hmm. But I thought, what are some of the things that you would assign a robot to do, or an AI, that would create huge additional capabilities for you and 10x or 100x value?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do
Yeah,
you think about all this?
well, it's really interesting because I had a discussion with Howard Getson about 5 years ago, and we were at Genius at the big annual meeting. And, because Howard is into AI, he's got an AI hedge fund,
Yep.
which from all reports of other people is doing really, really well. And I said, they keep making the prediction about super intelligence. The computers are going to be super intelligent. And but it's very, very hard to establish what intelligence actually means in the context that it's being used, because there's sort of a belief that there's a general intelligence, like there's an all-knowing AI program, but there's no instance of that anywhere in the world, that there's a general intelligence. There's just specific intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't make your money, and I don't make my money, Mike, out of general intelligence. We make our money out of specific intelligence.
Okay.
And just flash your book so we can see the book here, because you've just written this new book, your next act. Okay. So here's what I get. I haven't seen the video of how you actually do it over a 3-day period, but you can take people from an idea to a completely packaged company in 3 days. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got all the separate skills around that, which are skills out in the world. I mean, you have artists, you have video recorders, you have all the skills, so that the person not only creates the company, but they actually package the company, they package the marketing, so that on day 4, where 5 days before they just had an idea,
Yep.
and they came and they went through your thinking process. That's specific intelligence. And this is a result of 30 or 40 years on your part of testing out different parts of the strategic thinking process, the how to translate your message into right forms. And there's probably 100 different little working parts that you've put together.
Yes.
Okay. That's highly specific intelligence. Okay.
Yep.
But you're doing it for your reasons, and the people who are taking part in it are doing it for their reasons. And the person who's actually going through the process, they're doing it for their reasons. And all that is specific intelligence. There is no general intelligence. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between your intelligence and AI intelligence is that it's not coming up with the idea.
That's true. Yep.
Okay. And I think that's the difference. And the value, the marketplace value of what you're doing is, right now, you can't go down to your local new company in 3 days, outlet and come out with and my sense is that if it were that widespread, you wouldn't want to do it because it wouldn't have any value.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah. So if AI computer can knock off a video for you, you really don't want to pay very much for that.
That's true.
Okay. But if Steven Spielberg got together with an AI and created a video, you'd pay a lot for that. So my feeling is the human addition to the AI that gives the AI's product value.
Yeah. Very, very true. And
no, that's just my initial take on
okay.
So you served, and I don't know if I got back over the net. I don't.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't know.
Yeah, let's iterate a little bit, because I do agree. I think the fear is so my son Zach is 20, and he's going to school right now for filmmaking and philosophy, and this is his big
That's a good
concern.
mix. That's a good
hell of a mix.
That's a good mix.
And right now he is very anti big technology and terrified of what AI is going to bring because he's got his nose in the rabbit hole and he's seen what social media has done to his generation. And he's like, I was just talking to him right before we came on here, and he's like, I don't think there's going to be any white collar jobs left in a year. And I'm like, well, I won't go quite like that. But he's got his reasons and his thinking for it and where he's getting this from. And I want to go back to the happy side, which is I see AI as a companion.
Yeah.
So if I can say to the AI while we're creating a business, for example, I need 3 presentation decks about X, and I'd like 3 prototypes I can choose from. I'd treat the AI very similarly to how I treat 99 Designs, where I create a brief and a spec, and I, over a course of a week, I can get and engage 100 to 500 designs from a group of 25 to 70 designers and pick from one, and then maybe pick the next 2 because I like them and I know we can use them. And now I can shorten that cycle to 10 minutes or 3 minutes, for example. And I'm looking for ideas to springboard and create momentum. So to us, speed has value, and being able to have a time machine on my side is super important. And when you think about the Dan Sullivan way of writing books, which I'm modeling. I have my next one's almost done already. I decided I'm going to do quarterly books, and I built a team. And so Dan needs, first of all, to have time blocked out on his busy calendar. He's got a specific thing he's going to do. He comes up with an idea. He creates an impact filter, passes it on to the team. He narrates an idea. Someone fleshes it out, captures it, puts it in a package. And then some tools get made. It's iterative, but you've got this down. And what if you had a couple AI companions that could enhance the value or enhance the speed for the team? It seems like a no-brainer. And I think the movement towards where, instead of being afraid of it, because I've got an artist who works for me, and the first impression is, oh my God, this is going to replace. And it's like, no, I need you to be a greater designer and come up with more ideas faster. And let's turn around and create 3 or 4 times more work. You can benefit from the improvement in productivity and creativity we get, and shorten cycles.
Yeah. Well, I can see that in my own world. So I have a production team, and we have 1, 2, 3, including people at a distance. We have 4 artists who work on coach materials. My book would be one of them, and workshop materials, and marketing materials that go out. And we have 3 writers. So, we have 7, what would be called the creative team, that I was with at an ad agency in 1971 to 74, BBDO, Global. And we were in the Toronto office, number 2 agency in Toronto. And my team can produce in 3 days what it would take the creative team in the agency a month to do 1971. And the hidden factor is technology.
Yes.
It's software. It's, it's the print technology. You can lay out complete layouts, and, that you really couldn't afford to go to finished type unless you'd been through weeks and weeks of testing out in typewritten sheets and everything like that. And here you can, person can lay out whole pages automatically. And then, we have editing, but there's automatic editing that you can do first to correct egregious grammatical, or they'll highlight, the software will highlight, and most advertising language is not grammatical. You don't have complete sentences. You have one-word sentences and everything else. But the thing about this is that what you're talking about, there was an intentional force that got all that started and put that all together.
Hey, Action Taker. Mike Koenigs here, and I just wanted to interrupt for a second and let you know that if you're ready to reinvent yourself and your business, go to connect2mike.com to learn more and book a conversation with me right now. All right, back to the episode.
And I don't see the AI being an intentional force because they have no dreams, they have no meaning. They just take what already exists and reconfigure it. They take Joe Rogan's voice and Steve Jobs' voice, and they've got words that each of them has said, and they put it together and they put it into a conversation. And it's a great act and it's enjoyable, but probably not the second time through.
Yes. Yeah, there's a
wear out factor.
So I've got a couple thoughts that go along with this. There's a Franklin Delano Roosevelt quote, which is, it isn't sufficient to want. You've got to ask yourself what you're going to do to get the things you want.
And then what are you going to do after you got what you want?
Exactly. I think having a reason why is a great driver. So if we start there, and I'll give you another idea based upon what you just shared.
This is philosophy class, by the way. You and I are having a little.
This is good. This is good.
No, you can present this to your scared 20-year-old there.
Yes, yeah. I think that's this will give them some coziness. So here's the basic idea. There's a guy named Rory Sutherland. He's an Ogilvy guy, and he has a video which I will put in our show notes and I'll send to you. It's called The Psychology of Digital Marketing. And he's a great storyteller. He's been around a long time, and he's talking about solving big problems and using psychology instead of technology. So I'll give you one of the examples he gave, which is the trains and tubes that run between London and Paris, for example. And he said they spent $6 billion on this new project, and their goal was to shave off 14 minutes and add more capacity. And he said, I can do that for you in 3 months for 250,000 pounds. And of course, you're like, well,
which is even with the dollar.
Yeah, exactly. At parity, right? It's just about. I checked it yesterday. It was $1.11. The euro is below the dollar at the moment. But what a way to date the podcast! What a way to date the podcast! But it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, sometimes having the relevance. But now's the time, by the way, to buy expensive European cars with the dollar. But getting back to the big idea is, he said, his biggest issue. Here's his quick hack. He said, if all you did was poured someone, I can't remember, it was some sort of expensive liquor, and he said, hire models to walk up and down the train, you'd say, how do we slow this down? You know, get them drunk and happy and have something to look at. So that'd be one side. But the other side is, he said, the problem with the train is, he said, if you miss your train, it costs you a fortune to rebook, and of course you're going to lose hours. And he said, so what do I do? He said, I get there 45 minutes early and I sit around and I wait. He said, if all we had is an app that when you show up, you press a button that says, I'm here, there's other trains going on which you can't get on right now, it would let you get on. And sometimes you arrive and, you know, there's a new train there in 5 minutes. So he says, I'd get to my destination 40 minutes earlier, however much, and your capacity would increase because there's a natural loss. And we'd have a lot happier people who aren't as anxious. So the psychology value far exceeds the technology value. But he said, we as humans, he said, the psychology behind this is, number one, we trust engineering and math and finance because it's defendable. And we can't always defend an assumption or a psychological solution that can solve a problem for so much less. It's less defendable. So I think
So
that's
can I
yeah,
give
go
you a shortcut around that?
yeah,
Don't be in a business that is about defending.
totally.
Don't be in a defending business. I mean, not that I mean this in a negative way, but you and I are in the offending business.
Yes.
We're not defending anything.
No.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that the psychology can go further and further here. You know, is that it was like I used to watch boxing. You know, when I was a kid, I'd watch boxing.
Still love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, man, are they good? That boy, they're good. But God, look at the body on that fighter. You know, I mean, just look at the muscles just rippling. And then about the sixth round, and they're beating the crap out of it. But I said, why are they even in the ring in the first place? Why do they think that this is a good way to make a living? You know, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know,
Just
so
ask Muhammad Ali.
yeah.
Sure that.
Yeah. So the big thing is that there's whatever is there, humans can always come up with a bypass.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if you've been following. I've been following the Ukraine-Russian war,
Mm-hmm.
and about 5 weeks ago, the U.S. delivered 12 new weapons to the Ukraine, and they're called HIMARS, and it's a highly mobile rocket system.
Yeah.
And it's a truck. It's about, it's truck size, and it's got 3 people on it. It's got a driver, a navigator, and a guy who primes the rockets. And there are 6
Yeah.
rockets on the back, and they come in a unit. They're prepackaged, and they have cargo trucks that go all around the route hours before, and they drop the packets off so that the truck can always be on the move.
Oh yeah.
And these rockets, when you fire it, if you want to land it on somebody's table, it lands on the table 50 miles away. Okay. And the
Wow.
Americans, they don't, a lot of people don't know this, but the Americans have reconnaissance planes all around the Ukraine, not over Russian territory, not
Uh-huh.
over Ukraine territory at 40, 50,000 feet. And they're spotting movements, and they'll get the GPS location and they send it to they plug it in. It's for all 6 rockets. When they get all 6 rockets, each of them has a different destination.
Mm-hmm.
Goes to the truck guy, and the truck guy puts it in and shoot. And that's why all of a sudden the Ukraine has been on the attack for the last 4 days. And the reason is because they have these new weapons, and the Russian ones aren't precise. They just fire a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
rockets. But these, if there's 12 officers, and the U.S. can pick up their iPhone numbers and their cell phone numbers,
Yeah.
they say there's 12 of them, and they're within 30 feet of each other.
Yeah.
And you no more 12 Russians. And
Yeah.
I said, this weapon is changing the face of warfare. And the reason is that they just are moving around. As soon as they fire, they move the truck to another
Yeah.
location. And I think this is a revolutionary tool. I think this is a technology, and the Russians have no response to it because they're so backwards in terms of they throw a lot of people
Yeah.
at a problem, and you overwhelm it with people, but they can't even get the supplies to the front right now. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think it's just an upper game.
Yeah.
It's my little production company. We're not even an advertising agency. Can just turn out all sorts of things.
Yes.
We can turn out videos. 30 years ago, how long did it take you to turn out a 20-minute video?
Weeks for sure, if not months. Yeah.
Cost?
It would be tens of
Per minute?
thousands of
Per minute?
dollars. Yeah. Yeah. You would, even on the cheap, it'd be thousands of dollars per minute. Right. But we usually quoted people 20, 30, $50,000 for, 20 minutes was an enormous amount of labor because of all the people, the gear, the specialists. And now,
And
pull
you
out
had to
your
sync the sound. You had to sync the sound.
yeah.
The sound was separate, and you sync the
Yeah. I
and
started in film, believe it or not. So and I hated it. I was like, this sucks. So I had one of the very first commercial digital video editing system in the world. It was called the Digital FX, and it was based on the Edit Droid from Lucas. So it was modeled after that.
yeah.
And I was in the
So go
80s.
back to your AI.
Yeah.
Well, we're using it already because a lot of our Salesforce capabilities that we've picked up from our whole company is now based on Salesforce.
Yep.
All 12 sections of the company are unified on a single Salesforce. And we're having our best sales months we ever had.
Yep.
And it's, it's just the technological capability that we've added to our, we've multiplied our teamwork capability with the technology capability.
Yes.
So is there any difference of kind with the AI different from any other technology that you took advantage of over the last 30 years?
Well, here's the word that popped into my head while I was listening to you. I think the distinction is the word iteration. It's the speed of iteration. And if you think about it, if you and I can sit down and invent an idea, and then we will have a dialogue, right? And you can dialogue and you go, imagine this. And then we say yes and, right? We're essentially doing improv together. And what we'll do is design a narrative message that will result at some point, one of us will say, I would buy that, or I know someone who would buy it. And what AI would enable you to do, where if, like, let's go back to the video example, we'd say, great, let's create a narrative and a storyboard right now. We're going to pass that along to a script writer, and then we're going to hire the talent and stuff like that, and we'll make a video. So if we were really good and fast, 3, 5, 8 weeks later, we'd have a rough cut, spend 2 weeks going back and forth and have a polished version. Maybe you could do it faster, but it's going to be slow because, there might be animation and visuals and, old timey days. But now, if we had an AI, I mean, if we do it right now, you and I can have the dialogue, and then we could actually make the video, record it, and then distribute it. Or we could pass that along and say, hey, creative team, take this and then turn it into the next thing. But now we can take our narrative and instruct the AI and have it work on 3 or 5 or 10 variants simultaneously. And then we'll pick the best parts of each one and say, take this and this and this and marry it together.
Yeah.
So I think iteration and mashing up, but we start with the intention and the outcome and the goal. And along the way, if you had your Salesforce know-how, which is, you're capturing a lot of wisdom about your ideal customer. You can look at a market segment and say, we know that in 3 cities is the concentration of strategic coaches' best customers. They have demographic psychographics, and they're in this industry. Now we could tell the AI, show us the most effective marketing hooks that have shown up on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, that speak to this audience. And we'd probably get a whole bunch of headline hooks from that, right? We could do that in an afternoon.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's still output.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what we've discovered, and this is our best sales year. We've never had a sales year. We hit our end of December goals in the first week of September this year.
It's awesome. Okay. Congratulations.
Can I tell you what the change is? We don't tell them about the program. So first of all, we get a lot of leads now. So we're getting we're getting about 500 leads a month through our system, and they get they get filtered. We filter them. We send them out some information. And then there's a next stage where they agree to go through an R-Factor DOS conversation with one of our team members.
Yep.
Okay. And if they do that, that qualifies them to come to a taster workshop with Dan.
Yep.
Okay. And I start off and I say, you're entrepreneurs. You came here for your own entrepreneurial reasons. I bet you have some possibilities in mind that you would really like to be able to think about these possibilities in a more structured, systematic way. So I'm just going to have you brainstorm your biggest possibilities right now. Just brainstorm for a couple of minutes. We have workshop notes here. Just write down. And now I want you to do is I'd like you to take a possibility that you just like to think through really, really quickly. And not only that, but attach this possibility to the team that's actually going to help you achieve it. Okay. And then I run them through a certainty, uncertainty, our tool called certainty and uncertainty. And then we put them in breakout groups of 3 and 4. And they come out and I say, well, what'd you think about that? Because what you just did is what happens in a strategic coach program. So
Right.
how'd that feel? Was your thinking good and everything else? And at a certain point you say, do you notice how much I preached at you so far in the presentation? Have I told you anything?
Right.
But how many of you have a really totally different view of this possibility? And we want to indicate to you that you can do this with any possibility. And how does that feel? And then we have another thing which is called the who expander.
Yep.
So I said, you're in the middle, and this is the possibility. That's the little circle in the middle, and then there's a big circle on the outside, and that's the completed possibilities now become a reality. And in 5 boxes, just say the 5 people who are actually going to do all the work for you.
Yeah.
And they do the 5 works. And so first week we had 31 sales from 120 in the audience.
Yep.
Okay. And
and that was into signature program?
Oh, everything goes into signature. No,
Yep.
and you can't jump to one of the higher forms. You have to go through signature.
Yep.
You have to spend a minimum in signature, and you can jump. So I just had a person yesterday, he jumped to 10 times. And so this was his first taste of 10 times. And he said, I'm in. He said, I love it. And he said, the format's the same for 10 times, but he says the people I'm with are totally different. And I said, yep.
Yes. And that would be when I listen to you right now. So I was just talking to someone that I actually referred into strategic coach, who's in the medical world. And it's a she in this case. And she just got invited into free zone. So she's been in the program long enough to get invited in. And she was asking me, is it worth it?
That'd be a minimum of 2 years. That would be a minimum of 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. She just completed her 2nd year anniversary. And she says, is it worth it? And I said, well, if, I gave her all the reasons why I think it'd be the best investment she'll ever make in herself and her business. Where you look at signature, learning the vocabulary. So
self-managing company, you learn what a self-managing company is.
Yeah.
What has to be freed up is and
right.
The way you're doing it right now, you're maxed out in terms of how you're using your time.
Yep.
And so what we want to do is show that you should only do 2 or 3 things. Okay. And then we want you to see what this looks like if you have 10 times goals.
Yeah.
And building a 10 times self-managing company. And what would that look like?
Right.
And then you want to jump to the point where you have a great company and somebody else has a great company, and you can put 2 capabilities together to create something that doesn't exist in the marketplace.
Yes.
That's free zone.
Yes. And that is, in a way, when I'm listening to you right now, is you're sending people through a positive moving future, what it looks like, and making the possibility real inside your taster experience. Yeah. And then when they get to experience it with someone else in their same position and have the aha, that's going to create reinforcement without you doing anything with it. That's the beauty of community.